start by giving you a compliment about choosing us as your first excellent session / show. We've been referring to these as shows. It feels like it with the lights and all of that. So we're very excited to talk to you today. So who are we? My name is Brittany, and I'm one of our financial planning advisors and our education and learning manager. And joining me today are wealth advisors Patrice and Jenn. Again, very excited to talk to you today. So don't worry, we'll delve into what a money mindset is, but it really is, we're going to talk about your feelings about money and how those really impact the decisions that you make and whether you're moving towards your goals or away from your goals. So that's really what we're going to focus on today. So we have the benefit of having a nice 50-minute session. So we're going to talk about that a little bit in the beginning, and then we're going to have a breakout where you can talk amongst yourselves, share as much as you like about how you relate to money and how that shows up in your life and even your relationships as well. And then we're going to come back together, and I'm going to talk to Patrice and Jenn about their money mindsets and how that shows up in their lives and the lives of their clients and how they really focus in order to make sure their mindset is moving them towards their goals rather than away from them. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, at the beginning of these sessions, usually people ask you to put your phones away. We're going to actually ask you to keep your phones out. We're going to start off with a question that we want to ask all of you. So again, this is the hardest part of today. So go to menti.com, and once you're there, it'll ask you for a code to join the meeting. So that code is 371-390-70. So again, I'll give you a few minutes if you haven't logged in yet. And then again, the code is 371-390-70. So now we're going to bring up what you'll see when you bring that up is when you think about the words money and wealth, what other words come to mind for you? This is anonymous, no wrong answers, so please feel free to put whatever you want in there. So we'll give you a few minutes to do that. Perfect. So we are going to have this on the screen. So while we're bringing that up, I want to share a few of my words. It's freedom, I think, and also a little bit of anxiety. To when you're thinking about that, and like that may make sense to some of you and may not make sense to others of you, but we're going to delve into that as to why. Those are some of the words around money and wealth and all of those things. So anyone, again, while we're waiting for that to come up, anyone feel comfortable sharing any of their words in safe space?
You can just shout it out.
Yeah, shout it. Freedom. Okay, great. Independence. I love that. Freedom, security, yes. Gratitude, I love that. Blessing, great. Perfect. Peace of mind, I love that. Philanthropy, I like that too. These are great. Thank you so much for participating and even shouting it out. Here, we are going to talk about feelings today. I didn't preface that. But again, safe space. Really, we're all going to be vulnerable together here. So let's really move on to, we've talked about some of those feelings around money. So Patrice, Jenn, and I have really talked about what are really some of those categories that come up around money that really a lot of feelings coalesce around. So Jenn is going to start us off with probably one of the most popular ones, the shame-guilt spiral.
Shame and guilt. Lovely. I think we all can identify with shame and guilt. I think by nature, we're very hard on ourselves, just by nature. So I think we've all got caught up in this, depending on where we're at in our life. For me, I remember when I was going through my divorce many, many years ago, anytime you have a financial setback, you tend to put extra pressure on yourself.
Exactly.
Guilt and, why should I have done this? Or maybe I should have done that. Or not made this move, or maybe I should have took that position instead, or whatever it is. But we all have some sort of some sort of setback in life.
Exactly.
And so when I went through my divorce, I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, this is a major financial setback. So I put all this financial guilt on myself. And again, it's common to do. In addition to my kids at the time, they were in high school and middle school, And so, you've done this for college planning. You can identify with college planning, right? But then, your resources need to go other places. So I had to utilize some parent loans and student loans. And, those were wonderful resources. I'm so thankful for them. But still, you put this guilt on yourself. But, I want to encourage you that when you do feel that way, you need to really look at, okay, is it justified? Is that feeling justified? And can I use it for my benefit? I was able to use that experience as a catalyst to be a super saver, be more diligent about financial planning, and just really course correction, if you will, and just get back on track.
I love that. I love it. Really having an understanding of where that shame and guilt is coming from, because research shows actually we're not actually wired, or only 17% of us are wired to be savers. So we feel bad and guilty about something that actually biologically we're not really wired for as well. So it's really examining like the awareness and taking the shame out of feeling shame. And also so beyond shame, and I think everyone will recognize this one too, decision paralysis. So I don't think I'm the only one here where I spend 2 hours looking at Netflix, deciding what to watch rather than actually watching anything. Too many choices, and I go down the rabbit hole researching all of them for a Netflix show. But really with financial decisions too, there are so many choices, but really not much knowledge to differentiate between those choices to figure out what decision will take you towards your goals or what will take you away. So of course we have this paralysis, so we make no decision, which is actually still a decision. And we don't do anything because we're caught in that paralysis. So being in that paralysis, on top of that, we have outside influences. So Patrice is going to talk about comparison.
Favorite topic for sure. We live in 2024, and I think we are absolutely attacked and bombarded by information. I think social media is an absolute threat to our identity because we lose track of who we are as people, and we start measuring and comparing ourselves to this alter reality that we think we perceive in others. So it's almost like, oh, Brittany, she went to Costa Rica. Oh, how did she get to Costa Rica? Maybe I should invest more aggressively so I can go to Costa Rica. What's interesting, Schwab did this survey in 2019, and it's a little bit dated, but 35% of all Americans overspend so that they can impress their friends. A third of Americans overspend so they can impress their friends. And what's interesting is that wealth should not be something that you spend. You should not look at that as far as a thing to even consider. The thing about comparison is that it pulls us into rabbit holes and things that we tend to lose sight of what's important to us. So that's why, like, what we do and with conversations that we have here are really about not what your friends should do. It's not what your coworkers should do or your neighbors should do, but it's what's important to you, and kind of going back to your values, understanding that things that you are supposed to do have to matter for you because it's going to impact your financial plan overall.
It's really that lens on values, which we're going to talk about later, that really helps deal with these feelings, because we have these feelings that are up here, a lot of the feelings that you have all shared with us. So feelings are definitely something that we all feel. We're all human beings. It's natural to bring your feelings to everything that we do, especially finance in an arena where we don't actually talk about it as much. We don't really delve into what's behind the logic when it comes to finances. So we've talked a lot about the emotions that we do feel. So why do we feel this way? Are there reasons, ones that we can control or ones that we can understand better? So part of that is when are money habits really set? There's a University of Cambridge study that by the age of 7, children's money habits are already set, that's so early at that point. But who are children coming into contact with by the age of 7? It's their parents, it's their grandparents, all family, and even friends of family. So it's previous generations too who also have that impact and really can format that money habit behavior up to age 7. So okay, can we do anything beyond just our childhood? And is it just set at that point? Well, once you get beyond your childhood, there are your experiences that you have with money, most often potentially with debt as you start to earn your own income. And you're like, oh, great, a credit card. I have so much money to spend because I have a large credit limit, without potentially realizing the consequences. And maybe that affects how you feel about debt now. So it's those experiences that start to formulate along the way as you get older. And then Patrice hit on this too: movies, television, social media. I don't know if any of you have seen on YouTube those videos where they compare someone's salary to their actual place that they live and how unrealistic that is. I'm going to cite a popular example, Carrie Bradshaw, Sex in the City. She writes one column a week, and she can live in an Upper West Side brownstone and afford lots of designer shoes and clothing. So obviously, like, we know that example, like, that's ridiculous, but in some way we're absorbing that. We're being shown that this is a lifestyle that we should aspire to without actually having any of the relevant income to support that lifestyle. So that's what we're seeing all of the time. And then again, to Patrice's point, social media. Anyone, like, a lot of us potentially are on there, but if anyone has kids and grandkids, I don't think I need to tell you how toxic social media can be and how it really propagates these lifestyles that just aren't achievable, because on social media, you can curate it. You can curate a few instances in time and make that seem as if that's your life. Again, these are really, really toxic if you don't have the context or understanding. Even if you do, that these are not real life, it's hard when you're bombarded by that. So there are reasons that we feel the way that we do. This is not just things that we're making up either. So, okay, feelings, why we feel the way that we do about them. Let's actually talk about money mindsets. So there's research on this topic, I didn't make this up, about the different categories of money scripts. Now, if you're like me and you see categories, you're excited to neatly slot yourself into one of these categories. That's maybe my left brain talking. But before we go into these and you pick which one you want to be, I really just want to kind of say three things. Number one, you might actually identify with more than one of these, and that's normal. We're complicated human beings. These are categories. These are things to start building awareness of how we think about money. This is not, this is what you are and this is what you will always be. Because point number two, over time, this could change. You might recognize one of these from earlier in your life, and you start earning income, you start building that career, and then you're in a different point of your life now where that's not the priority. You're focusing on different things. So again, identifying with more than one, identifying with one now versus one early in your life. And then my third point, which I think is the most important point, and references back before, none of these categories, none of them are good or bad. So I'll say that again, none of them are good or bad. You might see in terms of the behaviors that we talk about, identify them as good or bad, but I really urge you to take the words good and bad and remove them from your vocabulary when you're thinking about money. Those create shame. Those are about judgment. And as we've just seen already, we judge ourselves enough when it comes to money. And we have outside judgment as well that we're perceiving. So let's not think about it in those terms. This is about the beliefs and the behaviors that are moving you towards your goals, or the beliefs and behaviors that are moving you away from your goals. That's really the focus here too. So don't worry, we'll remind you, good and bad. We don't like those words when it comes to this. So now that I've cautioned you all on that, then now we can delve into the money scripts. So the first one, money status. So really, what is the thought process behind when you think about money in this way? It's your net worth equals your self-worth. This is about how you feel about yourself. And you deserve new things because those things actually give you more sense of self and worth there. So how does that show up in terms of behavior? You prioritize the outward display of wealth. Because when you're outwardly displaying your wealth, you're showing other people, I'm a valuable person. That being the case, you might take higher risks to make more money so that, again, you can increase your sense of self-worth and you can have other people see that you are worth more in that sense. But again, this might seem like a bad one, but there are reasons for this why you might think about that. People from different socioeconomic backgrounds, like this mattered. Like money actually did convey status in that community. But again, as you move through your life and your economic situation changes, like that could change too. So again, and I'll say this repeatedly, this is about awareness. This isn't about this is bad, this is good. how do you approach money now? And potentially this will change as you move forward. So what's the outcome of that too? Overspending. You become financially dependent on others because you overspend. And you could be successful and wealthy, but again, the dark side of that is workaholic. You need to earn more money to increase your sense of self-worth. Not that, I mean, if people want to be a workaholic, it's your choice, but it's all about the motivation behind that. Because you'll start to see as we go through the other money scripts, the outcomes can actually look pretty similar, but the thought process behind it is different. And which is really, really important as we not only start to think about our money mindset, but how others actually, their money mindset too, because the outcome might look the same, let's say as one of your money mindsets, but they're coming to it from a very different place. So really, hopefully creating more understanding of how other people in your life relate to money as well.
Brittany.
Yes.
So if I'm going to buy the Maserati later, I'm okay?
Yeah. So money focus. So pretty similar in some sense to money status, but this is more outward. So the key, you believe money is freedom and the key to happiness. So we've talked about freedom before, but this is about what money will create meaning in your life versus money will tell other people how valuable I am. So thought pattern, a little different. Behavior here, and pretty similar, more spending, hoarding possessions. What I thought was interesting too, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, you engage in compulsive spending on other people, kind of thinking about this is a show of affection for other people. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not, but really it's about the motivation. Is that really making you happy, or do you think that's going to create meaning and significance in your life? And some of these behaviors you might identify with a little bit, or there's one behavior you're like, no, that's not me at all. Again, we're complicated human beings. This is about becoming more aware of what you do identify with and how you do approach money here. So again, outcome here, again, increased risk of overspending, just like with money status, more material possessions because you're spending more, and higher debt. Again, you're spending more money because money is going to create more happiness, create more meaning in your life. So moving on to the third script, money avoidance. So this one is, and here's the B word again, money is bad and you don't deserve money. So this is different than the other two, where you are not, it's not necessarily a reflection of your inner self, but it's more you want to almost protect yourself. You want to be a good person. This one I think has potentially the most judgment in it. So behavior pattern. You ignore your bank statements because you want to avoid thinking about money. Therefore, you also don't budget because that would require you to really think about your needs and how you're going to utilize money. And also interestingly too, because again, we talked about judgment in this one, money is bad. You don't feel like you deserve a raise at work. Even if you actually do, you won't ask for that raise. So what's the outcome of that behavior? Again, overspending. But we can start to see, while the outcome might be similar, the thought pattern is different. It's overspending because you want to give your money away. You don't want to have to deal with it. You don't deserve it. You want to get rid of it. So this again can lead to giving money away, not as much higher debt here, but lower income because you're not asking for those raises, missed payments because you just don't want to think about it, giving your money away to other people so you can avoid having it. So very different. This one I think is different from the first two in terms of how you're approaching it, but outcome looks pretty similar. So the last one, money vigilance, this one breaks a little bit from the other three. So money is private. This one's it's extravagant to spend money on yourself. This is not like the previous one where it's like, I don't deserve it. I don't want it. This is more like, I can't spend it on myself because that's really extravagant. I need to save because I need to have enough money. But of course, how much is enough money? That's not really a question that can be answered based on dollars and cents. That's a values question here. So behavior pattern for that, very frugal, but you're also uncomfortable discussing money as well, because again, you don't think you have enough. You don't think you're doing the right things. You want to keep that close to the vest, but of course you're not getting help when you do that, but less likely to spend on credit. So I think this one more so than anything, the outcome, these behaviors look like good money behaviors, but really what is the motivation behind that? Like, you're making good financial decisions, but you have so much anxiety about having enough and saving money that you might not actually enjoy the product of all of your hard work. And because you're private about this too, you might actually reach out and get the help that you need in order to make those decisions, in order to have that third party that really helps you see, no, this is your mindset that's really directing you in this way. Is it really moving you towards your goals about spending more on things that matter to you? So that's the overview of all of our money scripts here. So I have a little bit of a summary as well. This is on your tables as well. I'd love for us to take some time and really think about what resonated with you in terms of these money mindsets. How do you see this show up in your own lives and your relationships too? So we're going to walk around, but please take some time to discuss amongst yourselves.
There's a QR code on the page in front of you. So if you scan it, they'll take you to a test to identify which one is your money script.
Okay, we're gonna get started in a minute. I love how engaged everyone is talking about their money scripts. So now, thank you all for being vulnerable in your conversations at your table, or even if you weren't, that's totally fine too. Now, as promised, we're gonna turn to Patrice and Jenn and kind of ask them, for both of you, what is your money mindset and how do you feel about that? Jenn, let's start with you.
So it's interesting. I've heard across the room, talking to a few of you, that I don't know if I fall into any of these. Take the quiz later. It's a long quiz, so have your coffee or dessert or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think it's 24 questions or so. But you will fall in one, probably two at least, of these categories. I scored money vigilant. I knew I would score that. I did. That Cambridge study that talks about you kind of form where you are by the age of 7, I actually agree with that. I think our money story really defines our perception of money and our behavior. So when I was younger, I think scarcity, or my perception of scarcity, really made me vigilant. I was a super saver as a kid. My first job, I was 12. I wanted independence and I wanted to save. And I didn't really spend. As an adult, I got caught up, depending on where you are in your life, I got caught up in money avoidance probably in my 20s, just because I felt like I didn't have enough, so I don't want to deal with it. But then I got back on track and became vigilant again. So it just depends on where you're at. And again, when I mentioned my divorce, then, that catapults you into being vigilant all over again. Like, okay, I want to save. Mm-hmm. But, the problem with being vigilant is maybe you don't enjoy life as much, right? Maybe you're not spending where you need to spend. So I would just caution you to, be careful, be aware of where you are. But yeah, money vigilance is my core, but I've dabbled in a few others.
I really wanted to score money vigilant. I am money vigilant, I promise. That was my number 2. When we were going through this exercise and the 3 of us took the quiz, and I was kind of upset because I said, no, I can't be money focused. Some of you know me in this room. I am not. So again, Brittany talked about this. There's no good or bad about these particular, they're not titles, whatever we want to assign to them. I think the importance is that I am in a part of my life right now where I would say, like in my 20s, I was quite vigilant. I bought my first house at the age of 23, which is not normal for a 23-year-old. But I saved, I think every time I found like $1 in my wallet that was extra, I literally went into my savings account. And I did not know what I was saving for, but it just happened that we squirreled away enough for a 5% down payment. This is 20 plus years ago when you could do 5% down payments, but that led to other bigger problems, as we know. regardless, I would say that my money script has definitely changed over the years. So I went from money vigilant, then life happens, right? As I became a mother, as my husband has gone through career changes, as we dealt with taking care of aging parents, as we dealt with loss. I think, things happen in your life where you have to shift and pivot and figure out like how you're going to survive. And then now that my kids are older, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that I'm a little bit more money focused. I'm prioritizing my career because I'm almost an empty nester. So I can really look to see what are the next 15 to 20 years going to look like for me. And I feel like my 30s, I suffered because of all the sacrifices we had to make. So I need to now prioritize my future self and the future of my family and the security of my family. So I am money focused in that regard. And I'm also a vigilante. So I'm trying to, make sure that I'm saving and I'm doing things the right way. But there was a really great discussion I had with the ladies here at the front. And I think what's really important to understand is that our money script is not always ours. If you think about just how you grew up, and personally, I was born and raised in Romania. So I lived through communist times, and then I lived through revolution, and then I saw my parents open a business in a country that's a cash society. So for a very long time, I came home and my dinner table was covered with cash. Like, it was just cash, just green. Lots of, I don't even know if it was green, gray, whatever it was. So I had a very distorted view of money. I thought we were filthy rich. I really did. My parents never talked to me to say that money was to take care of payroll, to buy inventory, to pay vendors, to pay the lease of the building. I had no, and I was in high school, but did not know any of that. And I would say until, I would say later, seeing them kind of deal with money. I think I saw my mom try to run a business. I think that traumatized me. And I was like, I'll never own my own business because that looks really hard. So I think that she changed that part of me. Good thing I work for an incredible company. But I would say that it's really important to address your personal cultural beliefs because those have a huge impact. And as we know, the Great Depression, one of the wonderful ladies here at the table said, even millennials nowadays, they saw their parents lose their homes back in 2008, 2009, and that changed their perception of money. So some of them are quite super savers because they don't want to experience what their parents experienced at that time. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when it comes to your money mindset, there's no good or bad, like Brittany said, but understanding what goes into it, because it's really complicated and it's complex, and be nimble and flexible. Understand that's really what life's about, and you can't really stay in one lane. It's okay to kind of go all over the place.
I love that. It's the awareness that understanding your mindset brings. So here we're at the Investor Symposium. So how as an investor does really understanding your mindset help you? Jenn, let's go with you.
Yeah, so if you can understand where you are on the money spectrum, which mindset you are more bent toward, that's really going to help you look at what is your behavior, what is your belief. For example, if you avoid money, you might be an investor who is ultra conservative. Maybe you avoid financial planning, but that really could be to your detriment. You might be able to start financial planning and really give yourself some peace of mind that, oh my goodness, I can do this if I just tilt my portfolio a little bit more aggressively, or if I'm willing to do XYZ a little differently. So just being mindful of, what you do believe, where you're misguided, and be able to shift. Money vigilance, I touched on it. Sometimes you might not want to, if you're money vigilant out there like me, you might not want to spend on certain things. There are things that you just don't value enough to spend on, right? But what do you value? What are, and we'll get into values, but what are the things that bring you joy? Maybe you need to spend a little bit more. It's funny when I tell clients, I think you need to spend a little bit more. They're very, very confused. Like, what do you mean? But, sometimes you do need to spend a little bit more and really enjoy your life and the legacy that the life that you're building and the legacy that you want to leave. I love the story. I won't point you out, but I love the story that I heard at the table that, although she's been money vigilant most of her life, now toward the end, when she has grandchildren, she's spending more money on their education. And I love that. As a new grandmother, that's something that I want to do, so that really inspired me. Thank you for sharing. Student debt, I hated student debt, having to utilize that. So that's something that I want to do now that, I could care less about going to Europe, but I want to make sure that my kids and my grandkids are enjoying their lives. So anyhow, my point is identify where you are in that mindset, and that'll help you make some adjustments along the way.
I love that. Patrice, I'd love you to share a client story about how you help them navigate around their mindset to make better decisions.
Yes, absolutely. I think when we are at an Investor Symposium, and I think a lot of times when we talk to clients, they want to hear about their ROI, return on investment. It's amazing. But one thing that I want to maybe emphasize, and I do this with all my clients, is we want to emphasize ROE, return on enjoyment, because I think that is the most important thing. We all know money is, at the end of the day, it's a tool. But the one, I have the wonderful pleasure and opportunity to have a great client doing this for a while now. She's very much a money vigilante. She's done very well for herself, worked very hard, never really started a family. She does have extended family. But what's very interesting is that she has created this robust wealth and net worth. She's extremely charitably inclined, extremely. So she's in her estate plan, wonderful nonprofits, and money is going to go to children with cancer. She's got her extended family that's going to be taken care of. So it all sounds wonderful, but we started having conversations about her happiness right now because she's going to outlive her wealth. Definitely outlive her wealth. And we looked like, what can we do right now? How can you enjoy the impact, the legacy that you plan to leave to others? How can you see that right now? So she started thinking about the people in her life that would benefit right now from her legacy. And long and behold, I would say this year, since January until now, she has helped pay off, I would say, about to the tune of $2.5 million worth of mortgages for the people in her life, which is incredible. She obviously can afford it, but she had this realization every single time, and she kept saying, "Thank you so much for making this happen." And I said, "You're making it happen." And the letters she started getting from people, and it's that kind of joy that we want to see. That's the return on enjoyment that you want to have to benefit yourself. So I think that's kind of the purpose of the whole thing.
Yeah, I love hearing that so much. Really, that focus on values and what was important to her, that really helped make the decision easier. So I think, we've been talking about feelings and investments, how we feel about money, why we feel about that. But I'd love for you, in the few minutes that we have remaining, how do you go about establishing your values so that you can actually make better decisions while taking into account how you're approaching money? Jen?
Well, going back to finding that balance, finding what brings you joy, and you change. That will change over time and over the years. Like I said, when I was in my 20s, I valued, I had children, had a home, so I valued creating a nice home for them. I valued making sure that they were in all the activities, kind of like what you mentioned. But then your values shift over time, right? So it needs to be about what brings you joy at the end of the day. You are building this life, this one short, lovely life. And it really needs to be worth living, right? And so find out what brings you joy, find the balance on how to get there. You know, if there's something you want to do, like pay off someone's mortgage, that's amazing. So do some financial planning and investing so you know that you can do that. But really, it's just, you know, whatever it is you're passionate about, whatever it is that's going to bring you joy, that's your value.
I just want to touch a little bit about on time. I think our most scarce resource that we have is time. I never think I have enough time, but then we do make time for the things that are important to us. Use money to buy yourself time. I think that's really kind of something I was reading about this, and I thought about it, and I thought about when my children were little and I was doing a lot of stuff that took me away from them, but I could have hired someone else to do it so that I can spend quality time with my children. So I would say I did not understand that then. I can see it now, how that's important. So use money to buy yourself time. And if there's one thing that, like I would say when it comes to values and kind of going back full circle to the beginning, and Brittany kind of shared this with me. So we all know what FOMO is, right? Fear of missing out. There's one thing that you can take away from today is that I want you guys to embrace JOMO, which is joy of missing out. Because what you have and what you do every day is better than what everybody else is doing.
I love that. That's a great way to end the session here. Thank you so much to the both of you for getting vulnerable on the stage. And thank you as well to everyone getting vulnerable in your own conversations and attending today. So I think lunch is next, but I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Wow.